What if the song didn't end with goodbye? What if Mia turned around that night and chose Sebastian? What if she said, "Let's try, even if it breaks us"? Would love survive the spotlight or burn beneath it in another Los Angeles? Not the one we saw on screen, but the one between takes. Mia stays. The lights of her small theater still hum. The crowd has gone home. And there, in the echo of her failed play, she makes a choice that changes everything. Because what if dreams didn't have to compete with love? What if you could have both? The music and the muse, the stage and the story. This is that world. A world where they try to play the same song together. But when two dreamers fall in love, there's always one question left. Can they keep the rhythm without losing the melody? The streetlight above them flickered on, off, on, keeping time like a drummer who'd lost the chart but trusted the pocket. Mia's breath made ghosts in the December air. Somewhere down Sunset, a saxophone leaked through a closing door, 2 bars of something blue before the city swallowed it whole. Sebastian stood 3 feet away, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets, watching her like she was sheet music he couldn't sight read. "I'm sorry I missed it," he said. His voice carried the rasp of someone who'd been shouting over highway wind for hours. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. The theater behind them had gone dark an hour ago. The 15 people who'd actually shown up, Tracy, 2 casting assistants who'd felt obligated, a handful of generous strangers had filtered out into the night with careful, encouraging smiles that felt like participation trophies. "You're here now," she said. The light above them steadied, held. "I'm here now," he repeated, stepping closer. Close enough that she could see the coffee stain on his collar, the exhaustion carved under his eyes. "And I want to stay here, not just tonight. I know what you mean." A bus sighed past them, its brakes singing a slow cymbal wash. Mia thought about the other version of this night, the one where she'd already walked away, where the silence between them had calcified into something permanent. She thought about Paris, about the casting director's card in her purse, about the future that required leaving, and she thought about the year behind them, coffee steam rising like stage fog in his apartment, his hands teaching hers the bridge to autumn leaves, the way he looked at her when she read lines aloud, like she was creating weather. "Okay," she said, "but there's a rule." Sebastian's eyebrows lifted. "A rule? No dream that requires the death of the other?" She held his gaze. "Not mine over yours. Not yours over mine. We figure it out together, or we don't do it." He was quiet for 3 beats. 4. The streetlight flickered once, reconsidered, stayed bright. "The duet rule," he said finally. "The duet rule." He pulled one hand from his pocket and held it out, palm up. She took it. His skin was warm, calloused at the fingertips from piano wire and dreams that drew blood. "I don't know how this works yet," Mia admitted. "Then we'll improvise." Behind them, a door opened, Tracy leaning out, seeing them, reading the moment. She gave a small wave and disappeared back inside, leaving them to the city's irregular time signature, car horns, distant laughter, the tap shoe rhythm of rain beginning to tap out a question on the asphalt. They learned to navigate each other's routines like dancers blocking a number. Asterisk morning, asterisk. Mia at the bathroom mirror, running lines. Sebastian at the piano, working through changes to a standard until it revealed something new underneath the familiar structure. Coffee brewing, a duet of its own, the kettle's whistle and the grinder's percussion. Asterisk afternoon. Asterisk. She took the bus to auditions in the valley. He drove to commercial spaces in marginal neighborhoods, walked through gutted restaurants and failed retail stores, measuring walls with his eyes, hearing jazz in the negative space. Asterisk evening. Asterisk. Rejection texts arriving like percussion. Not quite right for this project. Going another direction. Sebastian's phone calls to investors who didn't return them. Maya's callbacks that never materialized. Asterisk night. Asterisk. They cooked around each other in his narrow kitchen. Knife taps on cutting boards, pan sizzles, the domestic percussion of chopping garlic and dicing onions. She'd tell him about the audition where she'd nailed every line and still felt invisible. He'd play her the chord progression that might open the club someday, if the club ever existed outside his head. Asterisk, late asterisk. They'd sprawl on his couch, her legs across his lap, his fingers absently tapping rhythms on her ankle while they watched old movies with the sound low. Sometimes she'd fall asleep mid-scene. He'd carry her to bed, careful not to wake her, and sit at the piano for another hour, working through melodies that felt like questions he couldn't yet articulate. Weekends collapsed into longer experiments. She dragged him to obscure theater in converted garages, one-act plays performed for audiences of 12. He took her to jazz clubs in neighborhoods her roommates warned her about, where the music started at midnight and the cover charge was whatever you could afford. They learned each other's language. She started hearing songs structurally, verses and bridges, development and recapitulation. He started watching performances for subtext, for what happened in the silence between lines. The rule held. When she got close to booking a commercial in San Francisco, 3 days of shooting, decent pay, he researched trains so he could visit between sessions. When a pianist friend offered him a weekly residency at a hotel bar in Santa Monica, he negotiated Tuesdays instead of Fridays so he wouldn't miss her Thursday scene study class performances, small calibrations, constant adjustments. The streetlight outside his apartment still flickered, but they'd learned to read its rhythm. Keith found Sebastian at a jam session in Silver Lake, playing with a quartet that existed for one night only, the way the best jazz combinations sometimes did. "You're wasting yourself on purity," Keith said afterward, buying him a drink at the bar. Keith was 40, impeccably dressed, successful in ways that looked easy, but probably weren't. He produced records that actually sold, worked with artists who could fill venues larger than living rooms. "I'm not wasting anything," Sebastian said, but he accepted the whiskey. "You're talented. You're technically brilliant. You've got taste." Keith leaned back, ice clicking in his glass. "And you're playing to 50 people in rooms without air conditioning. Those 50 people are actually listening." What if 50,000 people could listen? Sebastian felt the hook in the question. What's the catch? Contemporary arrangements, synthesizers, a rhythm section that keeps time for people who don't know they're supposed to listen. Crossover appeal. Keith smiled. "I'm putting together a band for a residency at the Mirage. 6 months, 3 nights a week, scale plus percentage of bar. It's real money, Sebastian, the kind that makes other dreams possible." The whiskey was good, better than what Sebastian usually drank. He thought about the commercial spaces he'd walked through, the ones that stayed stuck in his imagination like songs he couldn't stop hearing. All of them required money, real money. First month, last month, security deposit, renovations, permits, insurance, liquor license. The arithmetic was insurmountable. "Let me think about it," he said. When he told Mia, They were in his kitchen. She was making pasta. He was chopping basil, the radio playing something forgettable that filled the silence. "What does your gut say?" she asked. "That Keith's music is everything I ran away from." But the club won't build itself." She turned off the burner, faced him. "What if you do it as a trial, 6 months? You bank the money, see if you can find the jazz inside his production. If it's killing you, you walk. If it's just uncomfortable, that might be different from impossible. It feels like selling out. Or it feels like strategy." She touched his wrist. "You're allowed to take a gig that isn't pure if it gets you closer to the thing that is. That's not breaking the rule. That's just playing the bridge to get to the solo." He looked at her. 25. Brilliant. Spending her days auditioning for roles that reduced her to hair color and body type. Spending her nights rewriting her play for the 100th time, refusing to give up on her own voice, even when the city kept telling her it didn't need another one. "Okay," he said. "Trial." "Trial," she agreed. The basil smelled sharp and green between his fingers. Outside, the streetlight flickered twice, then found its tempo. The play had been a one-woman show because Mia thought that was what serious theater artists did. You stripped everything down to essence, to a single voice against the void. But watching it fail, she'd realized the void had won. She sat in Tracy's apartment, the one she technically still lived in, though she spent most nights at Sebastian's, with her laptop and 3 months of rejection crystallized into clarity. The play didn't need to be smaller. It needed to be bigger, more dangerous, more honest about what it meant to want things in a city designed to warehouse desire. She rewrote it as a two-hander, a woman and a man negotiating the distance between ambition and connection, between the person you're becoming and the person you're with. She gave herself harder edges, sharper wants. She made the male character actually complex, flawed, defensive, capable of change. Tracy read it over her shoulder, eating cereal at midnight. "This is better," she said. "You sound like yourself now, not like you're trying to impress dead playwrights." "It's angrier." "Good. Polite is boring." Mia sent it to Larkin, the casting director who'd come to her original show, and left a card. She didn't expect a response, but 3 days later, her phone rang. "This is actual writing," Larkin said, no preamble. "The first version was fine. This one has teeth. I know a director at the Geffen who's doing new work in their smallest space. Send it to her. Use my name." "Really?" "Really. But Mia?" Larkin's voice sharpened. "Stop apologizing in your stage directions. Trust your instincts. You're not asking permission anymore." After she hung up, Mia sat very still on Sebastian's couch, the phone warm in her hand. Through the wall she could hear him at the piano, running through the arrangements Keith wanted. Cleaner, more accessible, less room for the improvisational wilderness that was the point of jazz in the first place. She heard him stop mid-phrase. Start over, stop again. The sound of compromise learning its scales. Hash, hash, hash. Scene 5, Sebastian's gig explodes. The residency at the Mirage wasn't supposed to be a sensation. It was supposed to be a well-paying compromise, a strategic retreat that would fund the real work later. But Los Angeles had other ideas. Something about Keith's production. The way he wrapped Sebastian's playing in layers of electronic shimmer without completely smothering it, the rhythm section that made the music accessible without dumbing it down, caught fire. The crowds grew. First a packed room, then a waiting list, then a phenomenon. Music blogs wrote about it. Morning radio shows played clips. People who'd never thought about jazz found themselves humming the hooks. Sebastian told himself it was temporary, a means to an end. He banked the money religiously, met with contractors about the club space he'd finally found, a former diner in a forgotten pocket of Los Angeles, all cracked vinyl and good bones. The numbers were starting to make sense, but the gig consumed him. 3 nights a week became 4, then 5 when Keith booked them for private events. Rehearsals, sound checks, promotional appearances. The music was good enough to be dangerous, good enough that he could almost convince himself it mattered, even when he felt the absence of what made jazz sacred: risk, conversation, the possibility of failure mid-phrase. He came home later, slept less. Mia would wake at 3 a.m. to find him at the piano, trying to remember what his hands used to say before Keith's arrangements taught them a more commercial vocabulary. The color of their life together shifted cooler. Golden hour mornings became midnight blue late arrivals. She'd leave notes on the counter, asterisk rehearsal till 10, leftovers in fridge, miss you. He'd find them when he got in at 2, her already asleep, the notes written in handwriting that looked more tired each week. They fought about it badly once, then agreed to talk instead. Really talk, the way musicians called and responded, listening for the space between notes. They drove to Griffith Observatory at dusk, parked where the city spread below them like sheet music written in light. Mia brought coffee. Sebastian brought his exhaustion, worn like a coat he couldn't take off. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "This?" "The gig, the club, you, all of it at once. I thought I could keep everything separate, different rooms." "Yeah," she sipped her coffee. It had gone lukewarm. "That's not how rooms work when you're living in them." "I know. So tell me what you need. Time, more time. I'm not asking you to solve it right now. I'm asking what you need." He looked at her. I need you. And I need the club to be real. And I can't figure out how to. They're not enemies, Seb. I'm not competing with the club. I know that. I do. But it feels like I'm choosing every day. Every time I take another gig, every time I miss something with you, it feels like a betrayal? Yeah. Mia set down her coffee, turned to face him fully. "Okay, new version of the rule, or same rule, better explained. We're playing a duet, right? That means sometimes you solo, sometimes I solo. Sometimes we're in unison, sometimes we're playing counterpoint. But we're listening. That's the contract. Not constant harmony, constant listening." "I'm listening." "Good. Then hear this. I want you to build a club. I want you to take the money Keith's offering and turn it into something real. And I want you to stop feeling guilty about it. Guilt isn't the same as care." "What's the difference?" "Guilt is self-involved. Care asks questions. Guilt freezes you. Care keeps you moving." Below them, the city exhaled light. A helicopter passed overhead, its rotors chopping the air into rhythm. "What do you need?" Sebastian asked. "For you to show up when you say you will. Not perfectly, I know that's not realistic. But to not disappear so completely that I start auditioning for your attention." "I haven't." "You have. A little. Just stay visible, okay? Even when you're busy, especially then." He reached for her hand. She let him take it. "The duet rule," he said. "The duet rule." They sat until the sky turned from amber to navy, the city's lights sharpening into constellations they'd learned to navigate together. Mia, callbacks for the new play at the Geffen. The director, Vivian, mid-50s, brilliant, exacting, asked her to read opposite a professional actor to see if the writing held up under scrutiny. It did. Better than held up. It sang. They offered her a workshop production, 4 weeks of development, minimal budget, but maximum visibility. Sebastian, Keith, booked the band for a 2-week tour. Small venues up the coast, San Francisco to Portland, buzz building. Sebastian negotiated to keep Tuesdays free, then realized the tour didn't work that way. He called Mia from a hotel in Sacramento. "I'm sorry. I thought I could." Mia. Rehearsals that ran long, the kind of exhaustion that felt like purpose. She rewrote scenes on her feet, collaborated, argued, discovered what the play was actually about by watching actors find it in real time. She texted Sebastian photos of pages covered in notes, new lines scrawled in margins. He replied with thumbs up and heart emojis, the shorthand of someone moving too fast to stop. Sebastian, sound checks and drives, interviews for podcasts he'd never heard of, playing the same arrangements until they felt like muscle memory instead of music. He met with the contractor about the club space between gigs, making decisions about floor plans over the phone from green rooms and highway rest stops. Mia. Tracy dragged her out for drinks after a particularly brutal rehearsal. "You look happy," Tracy said. "Tired, but happy." Mia realized it was true. The play was alive in ways the one-woman show had never been. She was making something that mattered, even if almost no one would see it. Sebastian. He sat in a hotel room in Eugene, Oregon, practicing on a keyboard that felt like an insult after real piano keys. He thought about Mia, alone in rehearsal, making something beautiful without him there to witness it. Pride and absence fought to a draw in his chest. Same city, different tempos, time signatures divergent. The night he got back, she was asleep when he came in. He wanted to wake her, tell her about the deposit he'd finally made on the club space, about how the contractor said they could start demolition next month. But she looked so peaceful, and he was so tired, and the words felt like they belonged to morning. He fell asleep on the couch instead. In the morning, she was gone to rehearsal. A note on the counter. "Welcome home. Missed you. Show tonight at 8. I'll leave your name at the door." He made it to her show at 8:47, finding a seat in the back. She was mid-scene, brilliant and raw, saying his words in her voice in a way that made them both hers and more than hers. When she saw him afterward, her smile held complicated weather: relief, frustration, love, fatigue. "You came," she said. "I'm sorry I was late." "You came," she repeated, and he couldn't tell if it was forgiveness or just statement of fact. Rain fell in irregular rhythms, tap dancing on the roof of Sebastian's apartment. 3 a.m. They'd both meant to be asleep hours ago. "You're not even listening to me," Mia said. She stood by the window, arms crossed, watching water streak the glass like failed notation. "I am listening. You're saying I'm never here." "I'm saying you're never asterisk here asterisk." She tapped her temple. "Even when you're physically present, you're cataloging crown molding for the club, or mentally arranging music you hate. I can see you doing it. Your eyes go somewhere else." Sebastian sat at the piano bench, not playing, just occupying space. "That's not fair. I'm doing this for us, so we can have..." "For us? Really? Because it feels like you're doing it for an idea. This perfect, pristine version of jazz that existed before you were born. You love that version more than you love the actual living moment we're in." "That's not true." "Then why does it feel like I'm writing you into scenes instead of actually talking to you? Why do I have to make appointments to have a conversation?" "Because I'm working. because dreams don't fund themselves. Neither do relationships, her voice cracked. I'm not asking you to give up the club. I'm asking you to stay present for the life we're supposed to be living together, the one that's happening now, not the one you're building for later. The rain intensified. Snare rolls on asphalt outside. Sebastian's hands found the keys without his permission, played 2 bars of something mournful before he realized what he was doing and stopped. I don't know how to do both, he admitted. That's the first true thing you said tonight. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me if you still want this, us, not as a concept, not as background music to your real ambitions. Actually, us. Of course I do. Do you? She turned from the window. Her face was backlit by streetlight, and he couldn't read her expression. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're going through motions, hitting your marks, playing the arrangement of us instead of improvising. That landed. He felt it land. You're right, he said quietly. What? You're right. I've been treating this like a gig, showing up, executing, moving on, thinking that's enough. It's not enough. I know. The rain eased. Neither of them moved. The piano keys gleamed in the dim light, patient, waiting. I don't want to be your audience, Seb. I want to be in the band. I know. Do you? He stood, crossed to her. I'm going to figure this out, not later. Now, I'm going to... Stop promising. Just stay here, right here, in this minute, with me, nothing else. So he did. They stood together at the window, watching rain sketch temporary patterns on glass, not solving anything, just being present for the accumulated weight of everything they weren't saying. After a while, she said, I'm going to stay at Tracy's for a few days. Mia, not a breakup, a rest. Like a rest in music, space to think. How long? I don't know, until I can hear myself again over the noise. She kissed him once, gently, on the mouth. Then she gathered a few things. Toothbrush, clean clothes, the notebook where she wrote new scenes, and left him alone with the piano and the rain and the weight of what it meant to listen too late. Mia at Tracy's apartment, smaller than Sebastian's, messier, somehow more honest because of it. She slept on the couch for 5 nights, woke to Tracy making coffee, and not asking questions Tracy clearly wanted to ask. She went to rehearsals, rewrote Act 2 to be more forgiving, then rewrote it again to be more true. Larkin called to say a producer wanted to option the film rights for a modest sum. Mia said yes, because the money was real and the interest felt like validation she hadn't known she needed. Sebastian alone. The apartment felt wrong without her, too quiet, too many empty surfaces where her things used to live. He practiced obsessively, working through standards until his fingers cramped. Keith called about extending the residency. Sebastian said no, before he'd fully decided, surprised himself. He met with the contractor, made decisions about the club that felt less like compromises and more like choices. On the 4th night, he played a set at the Mirage and realized halfway through he wasn't playing for the crowd. He was playing for her, for the empty space where she should have been listening. Mia's revelation. The play's closing performance fell on a Thursday. She stood backstage 5 minutes before curtain, hand shaking slightly, the good kind of adrenaline. Vivian squeezed her shoulder. You made something. That's the part that matters. Watching from the wings, Mia understood. She'd been so afraid of being invisible that she'd made herself small. The play was good because she'd finally written it full volume, Sebastian's decision. Keith offered him a permanent residency at a high-end venue in West Hollywood, the kind of gig that launched careers, that came with a salary and stability and the slow death of everything that made music worth playing. Sebastian sat with the contract for 2 hours, pen in hand, thinking about the club that was finally real, about Mia's empty chair at his last performance, about the difference between success that looked right from outside and a life that felt true from within. He called Keith. "I'm grateful, but I'm going to pass." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "What'll you do?" "The thing I came here to do." After 9 days, Mia texted, "Ready to talk?" Sebastian replied, "Your place or mine?" "Neither. Meet me at Griffith, same spot." They sat in his car as the sun set, the city spreading below them in familiar patterns. Neither spoke for the first few minutes. Then Mia said, "I sold the film rights to the play." "Mia, that's congratulations." "It's enough to live on for 6 months while I write the screenplay, while I figure out if I can actually direct." "You can." "And you turned down Keith's offer." "How did you—" "He called Larkin. Apparently people talk in this town." Sebastian smiled despite himself. "Apparently. So we're both insane." "Completely." She reached for his hand. He gave it. They sat like that as the light faded from gold to blue, the city below clicking on one constellation at a time. "I missed you," she said. "I missed you too. The rule still stands. The duet rule. But maybe we need better rhythm section, more structure. I need to know when you're soloing so I'm not waiting for my entrance. And you need to tell me when you need space before you're drowning." "I can do that." "Can you?" "I'm going to try. Actually try, not just say I will." She looked at him fully. "There's something else. The play's going to have a limited run at the Geffen. Real run, not just workshop. 3 weeks in December." "That's incredible." "It opens the same week as your club. If we hit the schedule you told me about—" He laughed. "The situation too perfectly absurd not to." "Of course it does." "So we figure it out. Together. All of it." "Together," he agreed. "The duet rule, still holding. Maybe in this version, they made it work. Not perfectly, not forever, but long enough to know that love and ambition don't always have to destroy each other. Maybe that's the real dream. Not fame, not applause, but finding someone who keeps time with you, who doesn't ask you to shrink or to stop shining, who just listens and plays along. Because in the end, La La Land was never really about success. It was about the moments we choose and the songs we leave unfinished. What if the best endings aren't the ones that last forever, but the ones that change how we hear the music? Pause. Let the piano fade into silence. If you felt something tonight, if this what if stayed with you, make sure to subscribe and tell me, what movie should I rewrite next? Until then, keep dreaming and keep wondering, what if?